Happy Chicks RPG Podcast, Season 19, Episode 15. Episode 15, Happy Chicks RPG Podcast. My name is Steve.
Hi, my name is Bill Gates, and I'd like to update your computer right now. We're going to spend the next hour and a half updating your computer when you didn't actually want it. God damn them! That doesn't work.
How does Harry Potter prefer to get downhill?
I don't know how!
Walking. J.K. Rowling. I'm Kobe Tim. Get it? It's J.K. Rowling is the
Audio horrors, they're saying.
audio horrors?
So I'm going to fix that real quick. I'm going to crank it down a little bit. Let me know if it's better.
The other day you guys had double echo thing.
Mics are super hot. I just turned them down. Wait a few seconds. But you do want to buy war bonds. There you go.
Yes. Sorry, guys. So we had a massive update in our normal computer, and we waited and scrambled, and Stu got it working because he's Stu. Yeah, and there was lots of plugging and lots of things, and it's still at 95% still. So
we have cobbled together an anus extractus solution for tonight's podcast.
Yeah. Okay, I'm in the process of fixing the audio. Give me a moment here. In this episode of Happy Chicks RPG Podcast, we're going to talk about how to handle character death. GM John writes in for advice on passive spectator players. Chris in Canada sends us a actually about D&D leveling in days of old. Vincent writes in about mechanical canon in RPGs, and Steve in SoCal sends us some effective uses of NPCs. But before we do that, you can email us to happyjacksrpg@gmail.com. That's happyjacksrpg@gmail.com. And I'm pretty much caught up on the emails now.
So Steve did that all in one breath.
And if you want to send us an email, now's the time to do it, because my email box is almost empty. Not quite, but close. You can follow us on the Tweeters, HappyJacksRPG, all one word. Also on Instagram, HappyJacksRPG, all one word. And you can watch us live sometimes happyjacks.org/live.
We are slaves to technology, we all are, like everyone. Sorry, it happens.
And we forgot to pay our Microsoft bill.
Yes, we
Bill from Microsoft gets paid enough.
I don't think he gets paid from Microsoft anymore.
Bill from Microsoft, but I get
See what I did there?
Did that.
Hello.
Hello. It's just a gateway.
So did anyone play anything in the past week?
Not yet, but because I don't learn. I don't learn at all. I'm in the process of starting up a play-by-post game because I don't learn. But this time I have 7 players now. We've just started it, and I'm capping it there.
If you bang your head against the wall, eventually the wall will fall down.
No. 7 players. I'm doing completely.
Why 7? Why not 5? Why not 4? Why 7?
Because I think less than 10 is a perfect number.
I see.
For PvP, and I've got now 7 players who've signed up. 2 of which are kind of not able to start yet. One of them is fighting off crazy viruses. Evidently, they took his corporate infrastructure down, so he's repairing it. And the other one has just gotten over a big bout of sick. So
not a corporate virus, but an actual.
No, an actual virus. We had a techno virus.
Yes.
And a virus.
A virus on the techno. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's right. So yeah, but I'm setting up for a Lamentations of the Flame Princess, old school D&D style game.
Hear the lamentations of the Flame Princess.
Yeah. So I'm starting that.
I played Bloodblade and Tusk.
Right. Yeah.
Which is Stu's. It's his setting for his Moment of Truth game. And which is still a work in progress, but it's very exciting, very fun. I'm having a really good time. I was just talking a bit before we came on. What's really neat about the setting that Stu's created here, because I can play any game system if you just give me enough time. I'd like to learn the rules, and he's kept it sort of rules light, and he's still working on the rules. But I'm really liking the setting, which is basically historical Middle Ages, Dark Ages Europe. And so the borders are different. There's orcs. There may or may not be magic. And it's Europe. So we're all kind of having a good time kind of playing in what might be France at some point, but it isn't yet. It's neat.
I really enjoy alternate history settings.
Yeah. So, you know, we're like, where are we? So he whips out a fucking map and goes, well, let's see, there's Italy, so you're here. Okay.
During the D20 boom, 3.5 days when OGL first came out and everybody and their brother was producing D&D stuff, there was a setting, I can't remember what it was called, but the premise of the setting was, what happens if the Axis won World War II?
Man in the High Castle.
I don't think that's what it was called.
Oh, sorry. Spoilers.
I don't know what Man in the High Castle is.
I can tell.
You don't know what Man in the High Castle is?
I don't know what Man in the High Castle is.
It's a show on Amazon right now, which is basically what if
Go ahead, keep going.
Hitler and the Axis or did they? It's Wikipedia, so it's full of paranoia.
Oh, gotcha.
And double-sided. It's a very, very interesting story. But I haven't watched it all, which is probably good because I can actually get these spoilers, but you kind of know that it's a bleak and oppressive setting.
Yeah. I always thought it would be really fun to play in that setting.
Mm-hmm.
Where you've got, the United States is actually a puppet of the Nazi Party,
With who says we're not?
Oh, that's right.
Let's just read the first email.
The first email. Do you want to do it or should I?
Go for
If
it.
you're going to do I've corrected it already because I had to put this in here.
That's right.
So, Observer Player from GM John. Dear Happy Jacks crew, no douchebags this time since your advice worked great for my player Drew who was having problems focusing. Oh my god, our advice worked.
Every once in a while,
We get it right.
we get it right. And what do they say? Even a broken clock is right.
Twice a day. Or, yeah, at least once a day when I'm awake. The other time I can't tell.
Well,
It could actually be wrong.
Could actually be wrong.
I don't know.
If a tree falls in the forest and no one's around, does it actually make a sound?
I'm not there to hear it, so technically no.
I don't know.
Because I define sound. I took your advice, and furthermore started running a Vampire of the Dark Ages game where is a gruel to a Brujah war general, which is another player at the table.
I think that is where he is a ghoul.
Okay. Now, the problem I'm having now is it's been a slow growing, albeit passive one. I'm referring to observer syndrome, which I may have to look up because I don't know that. A term I just made up. Well, there we go. Observer syndrome, a term I just made up, describes the issues I'm having with another player. I will call Roy.
Okay.
Roy seems like a great player. Always excited to jump into the game and be rolling dice, but that is about it. I get the feeling he treats it more like being in a supernatural TV show. He continually takes skills or powers that make him undetectable. High levels of stealth, move silently, obfuscate. I've never been able to say
Obfuscate.
Don't correct me. Obfuscate. That's actually easier than the way I Obfuscate. Okay. He does little to put his characters into. In fact, there's a color called Toluidine Red, but I've been calling Toluidine Red my entire life as a painter. It's it's actually Toluidine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not Toluidine.
Yeah, I thought it was. Okay.
Obfuscate. Not all right. He does little to put the character on the spotlight unless I have something directly targeted or attack him. He is content to just sit there like a bump on a log and enjoy the story. He hardly seems to take the initiative in situations and refers to others and plays the conformist. This is fine for the most part, as I have dealt with reactive players at LARPs, but other players have pointed out to me and to him that he does it with every character he plays. Normally I would be fine with this, as another player at the table is always welcomed. However, he is the first to complain. I really don't get to do much this game during our post-game wrap-up. Luckily, I didn't have to address it to him, as another player was eager to jump in for me. Estella, the female Lasamba player quickly exclaimed, well, if you wouldn't spend the whole freaking game obfuscated or hiding, maybe you would have actually played. This gave us all a good chuckle, and after Roy left, the other players stated that it's not fair that he received full XP for hiding all game when they did all the work. I have to agree with this, sadly. He seems to have the demeanor when he sits down at the games like as if, I'm here now, entertain me, or another episode of Lifestyles of the Kindred Famous. In the most recent game, he is playing a Ravnos character, or a vampire, and is resigned to take no interest in all kindred affairs, which is fine for a Ravnos. But when his clan came under direct threat for a plot against the current prince, he just shrugged and said, and I don't care. I'm almost at wit's end with what to do with him. Thanks in advance for any advice you can offer. Sincerely. I don't know if this helps out, but he tends to treat every game like an anime, despite me and others saying, drop the anime BS. He tends to want to stylize himself after anime loner protagonist. It hurts my head. Take a drink. My first reaction to this is I totally see myself in this because I tend to play. Okay, let me back up one more. Vampire tends to lend itself to troublesome players and characters and situations. Each clan has their own agenda, and they have their own skill set that they're really good at. So sometimes you end up with a game that might be very political with a person whose only skill set is fighting, or you might have a game that's really interactionary and the people whose only skill set is hiding. So sometimes these people have no idea what to do with their character, and it takes a while to figure out what to do with their gangrel character in a highly political game. Or, I'm using that because I know that one well. Or what to do with the somber character in a Camarilla game. Right? So, or whatever it is. But because each of these clans is so defined, it's hard sometimes to figure out what your role is, and it may take times. I know that when I was playing in Dave 77's game, it took me at least three before I finally grokked Redfeld. I'm finally like, all right, I got it now. I know what I'm going to do with this guy. But it took 3 full sessions for me to fully sort of figure out what it is I wanted to do with him or how I was going to approach it. So Vampire's full of that stuff. There's all these, there's paragraphs and paragraphs of power descriptions, and then there's all of this political stuff, and it takes a while to sometimes grok it. So Vampire is, I think, really notorious for having a hard time integrating characters and having a hard time, everybody getting along. It's actually designed for everybody who doesn't get along.
I read in one of the Vampire books, and I can't remember which one it was, which is commonplace for me.
Well, there's like 30 of them.
No, I know, but it might have been pre-V20. It might have been in like the Storyteller's Handbook or one of those player's guides. I don't remember. But what they were saying is, I think it might have been the Storyteller's Handbook. But they were saying that clans are actually not just big families of vampires that all get along. Mm-hmm. You could hate the next Bruja just as much as you hate that Setite over there. There's no reason for you to like this guy just because he's a Bruja.
There's a bunch of people I work with that I hate.
Yeah,
but I work with them.
And it's that kind of thing. It's like, well, all that it means is that the same. All that a clan means is the same people who bit some of your parentage are the same people that bit some of my parentage. Mm-hmm. So yeah, but I do agree with you. It does. Vampire does.
You say
it is a little hard to get characters that are essentially selfish.
Well, no, it's not hard.
Selfish monsters.
That's exactly what you get.
Yeah. And so how do you make that happen?
Yeah.
And that kind of ties into what I immediately thought about reading this email. But when his clan came under direct threat for a plot against the current prince, he just shrugged and said, "Does it affect me directly? No? Then I don't care. Make it
affect him directly.
Thank you.
Obfuscate.
Obfuscate. Make it affect him directly.
Yeah.
He has to have something in his character. He can't just be, I am a Ravnos, and that is it.
My family's dead.
My family's dead. Nobody cares. My friends are dead. I killed them all. I drank all their blood. There has to be something that you can probably key to make it affect him directly.
Now, I don't want to make this all about vampire. I sort of stuck with that.
Yeah, that's
because it seems like that this is an actual problem with this guy. He's very happy to make a safe character that kicks back and just watches. He maybe he's more of a voyeur than a what's the opposite of voyeur? Exhibitionist.
Exhibitionist, yeah. And that was my other fact. The other thing I was going to say is, and it's totally vampire, but it kind of does apply to other games as well. Same as that advice, make it affect him directly, is ratchet up the generation of your foes to just a little bit above him, and make sure that one or two of them have auspex. Then they can see through his obfuscate, and he can stand over there obfuscated, and they'll be like, "Hey, you over there in the corner, why don't you come join the conversation here?" You can also do that in other games. You detect invisibility spells or items or whatever. It might seem a little meta to specifically be saying, "Well, he's got that because you do this all the time." Just make sure that there's a good reason for the foes to have that.
Yeah, and the other players sound like they're fed up with it too.
Yeah,
that's the other thing that's happening, which is it's actually beginning to affect the party, not the actual party, but it's actually beginning to affect friendship.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, the hell.
And again, I'm not advocating being the what were we calling him, the GM that you did in the superhero game, the Doctor.
Oh, Dr. Douche.
Yeah, don't be Dr. Douche. But you have to think that if you're working in a society where they know obfuscate exists, some people are probably going to have ways to pierce through obfuscate. If you're working in a game where they know that magic users can cast invisibility spells, some people are going to have detect invisible things, because nobody wants to be taken by an invisible
I'm going to take it off of vampire, and I'm going to take it off of the whole... what I really want to concentrate on, I think, now, is his... There seems to be a trend with him just being a passive player, and then complaining that he's not getting any attention. He's not being part of the game. This doesn't speak to me. I think you might want to take another lesson from Stu, which is have them fill out a player sheet ahead of time, come up with backstories, come up with a family, come up with stuff that directly affects them, and then what you do. And I think it's fair to say that when we first started Vampire, that Stu mined my backstory for much of the stuff that happened in the Vampire game. And I don't think that was by accident, because I actually handed him a bunch of open-ended things that he allowed to not only fuck with me, but with the rest of the players.
Yeah.
I think that is key to a GM. It gives a GM arsenal, and it allows you now to have a bit, I don't want to say force your players, but what it allows them to do is make it personal.
Yeah.
So by asking your player to submit or answer a bunch of questions, and if he says things like, family, they're all dead. Why did they die? I killed them. Why did you kill them? Because I hated them. All right, you have to come back and say, you need to fill this out and make it more sense. Come on,
you
dude.
get the big red pen, you write the F at
or
the top
whatever,
of
but
hand it back to him.
And if that's true, then maybe the ghost hunt him. But the thing is that you don't have any ammo to really make him, to draw him out. And what he's kind of doing is being you have to use reverse psychology. He's being kind of all right, you're the GM, all right, go ahead. Well, how can you bring me in? I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to play your little game.
Well, let's go back to Moat.
All right.
Pour out a beer for my homies.
Oh, I thought we were going to do Vampire again. I thought we were going to move off it.
No, I know, but it's because there's a specific example there. Scully, obfuscate. I started running around unseen all the time. I broke into a lady's house. All of a sudden, there was a magic barrier up that could feel me. It didn't have to see me. It could feel me.
And only later did we realize there's cameras everywhere, too.
And then,
right.
And then, on top of that, cameras came out everywhere. So that's what I'm saying, and it ties in directly with what you were saying, is there has to be some way that you can deal with that. Obfuscate, invisibility, hiding in the shadows. These are not, I hate to use the word unbeatable powers.
Right.
But they're not.
But here's the trap he's setting up. This player is making it so difficult to bring him into the game that you're going to spend more time focusing on him than you are on the rest of the players. And he's setting it up that way. He is putting you in a position where you now have to spend, I'm going to make up a number, 60% of the game drawing him in each time.
Agreed.
And the rest of the players should be like, And now you've sacrificed all the other people that, in good faith, want to play as well.
No, I agree.
It seems to me. So, if you have an immediate set of responses, which is, oh, right, you have a sister here. All right, okay, so your sister just called. She says she's been kidnapped.
Yep.
Now he's invested. You've only used one sentence, and the rest of the players would be like, fuck your sister, we don't care about her. And now he's pissed off at them, and now you've got it going. So again, because Stu, he set this up. He's right. That's the reason you have these questions, and you don't have to use them.
Yeah.
But you have them there in case you use them for situations just like this.
Yep.
It's also, as a GM, it fleshes out in their mind what your character is, and it gives them ideas. So he may not actually draw upon your sister, but if your sister was a drug addict, he might actually pull in the sister's friends or douchebag boyfriend and have them fuck with you, not directly with the sister. So all of a sudden there's this guy, whatever it is.
The sister's dealer shows up. Shows me money, man.
Whatever it is.
Yeah.
Exactly. So by asking these questions, he's enriched his world and your world. And I think as a GM, it gives you tools to bring people in. And eventually you run out. I think Albert stopped getting picked on when he ran out of, I think we killed off, we ran out of questions. But
So students checked off. No more.
It's not. That's not quite the truth. But it's funny how useful those questions can be, and how you can use them.
And let me just say, Stork gave me the questions that had the most drama in them. The questions you gave me were
The answers I give you.
well, the answers to the questions I asked and the plot hooks you gave me had to do. Well, there's this band of bikers that's hunting me, and then there's my sire who doesn't like me, and then the guy that she abandoned for me doesn't like me. So it was all stuff that was. It was all people that were basically going after him.
Yeah.
Every sentence ended with, and he doesn't like me.
Right.
And she doesn't like me.
He's got a rough life.
Right.
But I think that might be the answer to your question, which is to have them fill out a form. And somewhere, I think on our forums, there is Stu's list of questions. I think it's at 10 or something, somewhere out there. If not, I'm sure there's people right now that are listening to the chat that are busy going through their emails and they're going to post it on the forum somewhere. But if not, come up with your own. But I think what is it? Just as a quick, who's your family? What are their names?
Yeah. Well, in the one for the vampire game, it was like I wanted to know what your family life was like before you were embraced.
Yes.
Have you tried to keep in contact with any of them? Which of course you're not supposed to. But when do vampires do what they're supposed to do?
Well, and it's rough the first couple of years.
Right. And then I asked, is there someone you admire? Is there someone who's out to get you? Is there someone that you're out to get?
Name another kindred you know that you consider a friend.
Right.
That was one of them. That's where
the Tremere.
What was his name?
Chaucer.
Dylan Chaucer.
Dylan Chaucer. Yeah.
That's where he came from.
So it seems a trivial exercise, and yet I think Stu was able and still is able to pull from those and pluck those out.
Yep.
And even characters that are gone, he still has that info because he still has these names. There's Dylan Chaucer that we can still use. He's still in play. So
I don't think he is.
Oh, all right.
We don't know what happened to him yet.
Yeah, we don't know what happened to him.
Okay.
Anyway, kind of speaking of the people's backstories I can use, I can't really use Kimmy's anymore. Because Kimmy's character died.
I heard about that.
Spoilers.
Yeah, keep up, guys.
Right. But I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about character death and ways to handle it, and especially when it's unexpected, and ways to have a sort of a contingency for it. Now, we lucked out in that game because 2 sessions prior we had done a one-shot where everyone made... Can you grab me one, too?
Of course.
Or maybe a couple, because now that the audio's on.
You want beers?
Working.
If there's a
beers. I need
if
beers.
there's another soda, that would be great.
There's a lot of these sodas.
I don't care. Just something soda-y.
Did the kids open the door?
No, that's the refrigerator.
The refrigerator squeaks when you open it? Oh, that's fascinating. Anyway, we were lucky because we had just done a one-shot.
One-shot, Kindred
and
One,
everyone had made their new characters, basically new potential NPCs for the island.
That just suddenly became a PC.
And Kimmy's just suddenly became a PC. Now she's going to have to we're going to have to figure out how much XP she needs to dump in like some freebie points and stuff to be able to get her character up to a similar level.
It's dark. I grab things.
That's fine, thank you.
There's
That's perfect.
There's
It's dark. I grab things. That
I'll
was
take the Guinness.
That's high school.
like any of these.
That's frightening. It's dark. He just grabbed things. Let's turn off the lights.
That's high.
That's how I got 2 kids.
So okay. Okay. So here's the ultimate answer to the question of character death. Right.
Right.
Just fudge the dice and make them not die. Hold on. Wait. I'm just waiting to see how long it takes for the chat room to blow up.
It will take at least 30 seconds.
I can hear it right now. Someone on the East Coast is like,
That's right. And I'm just kidding. I'm totally just kidding. That's just a tip of the hat to some conversations we've had on the forums. I'm not actually advocating that.
Here's the thing. If you haven't listened to Moat, I guess you just let it out of the bag.
Triggered.
Can we talk about it?
Did someone say that?
Yeah.
Kimmy handled it really,
Vampire
really well.
54 said that. Go ahead.
Her character died. She went up against somebody with celerity, which is how people often die in Vampire. I think it's the #1 cause of death in Vampire, celerity. It truly is.
Ennui.
No, well,
No, that would
just
be the leading cause of torpor.
Yeah, they just, but then they wake up like 150 years later.
Right.
Yeah, but they don't actually die. But celerity is the #1 cause of death, whether it's with a werewolf or a vampire or whatever. But yeah. So, and she's been playing this character, and we did the math, like 3 years.
At least 2. Maybe longer.
2 years and change. She said 3.
It might be 3. It might be 3 years.
we've been
Remember,
playing-
because we used to play we'd play like once a month, maybe.
But was it that long?
I think it has been.
Holy
And Adrian's
hell
been
in
with
a
her for
handbasket.
3 years, and she's had plans and everything. And quite literally, in 10 minutes, her character went from less than that, I think, because celerity. And she handled it really, really well, and I give her high marks for that. She said she teared up a bit, but that's a rough thing to do. How do you?
It's hard not to.
How do you be cool? How do you be cool? I mean, you're like, you bastard, and it's your first reaction, especially with somebody that you've been with that long.
Yep.
I mean, I know actors go through it. Like, we're like, you killed my character? Dude, I got a family to feed. I just bought a new house, and I mean, I was planning on being on the show. Sorry, what is that? It's flavored urine?
No.
Urine flavored, it's
You
wine.
drink these things for enjoyment?
Anyway, I think...
It's seltzer water with a little tiny twist of lime.
No, there's no. It's just seltzer water.
No, it's a twist
they
of lime.
wave lime over it. But I think it's on the player to be cool about player death. Because the #1 part of drama is like, nobody wants anybody's player to die, and then watching somebody's player die, you feel really awkward. You're like, and nobody's making eye contact with that player anymore. And you want to be cool about it, and you're like, and yet the game's still going. So, and you're in character, and you're like, all right, the bitch is dead, let's move on. And yet, meanwhile, inside, you're like, oh my God, Kimmy's character just died. What do we do? It's a weird situation. I don't think anything prepares you for that, especially somebody that you've been looking forward to playing for 3 years.
Right.
I mean, I'm using that as a specific example, but it's happened to everybody that's out there. How do you, as a player, handle that, and how do you, as other players at the table, handle your other guy's death? And can you be mad at them if they behave badly? Because we've seen that.
Honestly, I believe it's something that we who take up this hobby really need to do a better job of just accepting that it's part of the game. I don't think that it's any coincidence that almost every game I've ever read, and almost every game out there, has pages and pages and pages and pages devoted to combat.
Sure.
And what is one of the, I'm going to say right now, combat is the leading cause of death for RPG characters.
Yeah,
right?
you're kind of going out on a limb. I would like some backup on that.
I'm going to say falling.
I can show you my numbers. I've done. I've crunched the numbers on
Extensive
this.
studies.
I'm going to say falling, actually.
There
but
was a
that's all right.
Stanford study in the 1970s.
That's right.
That proved this conclusively.
It was from some university back in Wisconsin. It was right next to the TSR offices.
Gygax University.
Gygax, yeah, they were studying combat and accurate time records, and it was published. But anyway,
Combat is the leading...
and I don't think that's
That
that's
deserves to be on a T-shirt.
It does. When you sit down to play a role-playing game, I really think you have to be...
Well, that
Fake news, Tim.
That's true. And that being said, that's fine. I understand that combat is the leading cause of death, and I understand we all enter into a contract, but that doesn't make it any easier.
No,
when I get in
you're
a
right,
car
you're right,
accident,
yeah.
I'm still, and yes, you're playing poker and you have a bad hand, you don't table flip, right? And when your character
Well,
dies,
you may not.
you don't table flip. I mean, you shouldn't. My point is, playing poker and then investing 3 years in a character, to my mind, are different.
Oh, sure.
And you may enter into with a contract knowing full well that your character may die, but that still doesn't make it any easier. In fact, the longer the game goes on, the harder that is actually going to be.
Right.
And it's not their fault.
There were a number of times when I for sure thought Scully was going to bite the big one.
Well, a number of times I thought Scully was going to kill me.
Might not be wrong about that. Anyway.
Remember all that blood you put in when we bought the apartment? God.
No, you know what? I'll tell you right now what that was for. That was in case you attacked me.
Yeah.
I was being defensive.
We were both like,
Anyway.
on our dicks.
Right. And in those occasions, when I was sure that Scully was going to die, I could feel it, that sadness of, oh man, this is one of my favorite characters. He's going to die. I'm not going to make it past this next session. This is going to suck. It's going to be horrible. So you do get that.
And maybe that's the key.
Attachment and you know, we all play make-believe.
Sure.
But there's a part of it in your head where it feels almost real. You begin to identify with your character and like your character, and you know, you think about your character almost like a real person.
And a lot of GMs, myself included, try to get players to think of it and become more emotionally invested.
Yep.
So yeah, congratulations, you bastard! You made us invest in our characters. Now we think about
and
them
now
at
you
night,
killed them all.
and then you kill us.
Table flip.
Right.
You can't flip this table. So
and
I
that
tried. You're gonna herniate yourself.
That's the love and joy of this game. Is that
Yeah.
with with everything you do, there's consequences, and you can die. And I think that's the risk. That's what makes the game interesting to me, because there is that life and death consequence, and it can be really, you know, you go out there and I'm like, especially the way I roll. Here we go.
Well, you do the,
I know, I'm being glib, but the point is that every time you enter a combat, every time, yes, there is that chance, and we know that, but it still doesn't make it easier. How do you, taking away the fact that we know players are going to die, how do you as a player handle that? And how do you maybe as a player at the table handle the other guy's character dying? How do you still stay in character and not be an asshole?
You ever watch The Simpsons? You know that one laugh? That's what I do when other people
do
die.
you?
No, I'm just kidding. It's
you got to be sensitive to this.
You totally do. When your character does something awesome, right?
Mm-hmm.
You make a great roll, and he does something awesome, and the table goes, wow, that was effing rad. You're like, yeah, you actually get this rush of awesome energy that's so cool. Conversely, when a character dies, you actually do get that feeling of, oh.
Well, that's where I was going with this. I mean, depending on the group, a group hug might not be unacceptable. No, I'm serious. Not necessarily in our groups, but I could see how certain people are like, dude, you've been playing this character for 10 years, man. Bring it in, man. Whatever.
Come on, man. Here's your shoulder for it.
But because that's rough.
Yeah, it is. Agreed. But as to how you deal with that, I couldn't answer that.
I think it's a personal thing. It also
totally
depends on how hammered you are. Also depends on the circumstances. Like,
there you go.
You're like, and then there's
how you handle it.
And then there's
right,
the replay. The replay you have in your head, like, oh my god, I could have dodged, or oh my god, didn't I? I forgot to count the 2 points of armor. Oh shit.
Oh man, I'd still be alive.
You go home and you're like, you replay it, and like, oh my god, I should have. And then your other character shows up and you're angry because I got this other guy. I really don't like this guy. And it takes you 3 or 4 sessions to get into it. And I mean,
that's one of the things. Savage Talker of the Hill people. Oh yeah, that's okay. All right. He says that's why I like the new rule for rifts in Savage Worlds. The Blaze of Glory. You're dead, but you get to decide how awesome it is. That's what.
That is
Bill's character did. No, that's not what that picture is.
Hiker.
No, he's crazy.
Okay.
But he basically went out on a blaze of glory and decided that he was going to intercept my boom gun.
Oh, listen to that episode. It was awesome.
Shot.
Okay.
Like literally jumped.
Because I botched it, so it was going to hit the dragon, Sam's character. And he decided to use the blaze of glory, basically leapt up, took the shot for her,
And died.
So from there on out, Stu killed Bill's character, but that gave him the opportunity to decide how he really literally went out in a blaze of glory.
Yeah, totally.
He's protecting his dragon baby, who isn't.
There was
an
actually
actual baby.
fire.
Oh yeah,
He was
yeah.
actually on fire.
Yeah.
and he was obliterated.
Yeah. I guess that's the thing. If you're cognizant enough and you know that you're in a dangerous situation, take that breath and say to yourself, all right, I might die. So if I'm going to die, I want this to be awesome.
Yeah.
Right? Which is not necessarily like just throw a caution to the wind and berserker him. Oh, maybe, depending on your character. But the point being that every time you enter combat, this might be it. You don't want to remove yourself where you're like, I don't care anymore, man. Just roll dice, whatever. I'm going to die.
Whatever,
I don't
man.
care. Don't
Whatever.
do that. But I don't know. It depends on the system, right? And it also depends on the investment in your character. I mean, there's that. I'm reminded of that comedy situation. I think it's from I bring it up all the time, from Canada with all the French guys, and they're all like, they've been playing, and they bring in another character that hasn't played in 10 years, and he
Boba
plays
Fett?
Boba Fett. And they're all the French, and they've been playing. They're all like 25, 26 level wizards and such, and he's like makes his second level character and ends up poning them. It's hysterical. Type it in and look it up. But it's a Boba Fett Canadian role-playing game. It's this wonderful little short film, and people die, and they're like, I mean, shaking. It's very funny, and yet not.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have an answer for that one.
And
how
okay,
do you deal with
so
it?
so we've answered how the player feels. We've answered how the other players feel. How does a GM feel when you kill a character? How do you handle that?
No, again, I'm just kidding.
Don't do that.
Don't do that. That's not. Don't do that. Don't do that.
Well, Kimmy hasn't talked to me since I killed the character. So no.
Do you feel bad?
I keep texting her.
A little.
I keep
but
texting her, but she won't reply.
it was basically the concluding fight of a major story arc. If anyone's going to die during the course of the game, that's where it's going to happen.
Okay, we've been harping a lot on this one character situation, but there are other games perhaps where you felt.
I haven't killed a lot of characters.
Yeah.
I had one almost TPK, but that was not me. That was the players.
Well, you know.
That when in my old GURPS campaign, more characters died at the hands of other player characters than of my hand.
Well, GURPS is specifically deadly too. I think anybody that enters into GURPS, you make a contract with Lord because
I
you know that a
didn't
sniper
kill
rifle.
a lot. I didn't kill a lot of characters in that game, but the players killed each other's characters a lot. But there was one thing that Bill had mentioned. This sort of like weird clockwork magic, quasi magical thing was like roaming through the desert, and they went over and attacked it
and hit it,
and it exploded. And I'd already determined, I mean, I had it all written out because this is something they weren't even supposed to find for a long time. And I had it all written out, and I showed them, like, here, this is what it does. I'm like,
You sure you want to hit it? Sure.
No. I showed it after. I said, after they hit it, and it exploded. And I took all but, like, one character out. I think it made Bill, we were, at the time, I had just gotten the Horse Clans book, and there was an undying advantage.
Mm-hmm.
And he had to, I don't remember what he had to roll, but he had to roll something like a health roll or something.
Yeah, you've told the story a couple of times.
And he rolled it like he rolled like a critical success.
Yeah.
And so he became undying. And so basically he didn't have any more XP. He had to spend all his XP to buy off this.
He was a Highlander, yeah.
Kind of. It's the Horse Clans books. It's Robert E. Howard. Is it? No.
It's the Tor book. It's
I don't remember what it was.
GURPS Horse Clan? Or did I? Yeah.
Yeah.
but it's based on an author.
Yes.
It's not Howard and it's not Burroughs. It's
later than that. Anyway,
they don't hold up. You read them, you're like, this is really awkward. There's a lot of God, I read them too. I read a couple of them. But as a GM, I mean, I've noticed. I mean, maybe that's one of the best reasons for rolling out in the open.
yes, absolutely.
Which like you have your dice tray and you roll it out there, and the characters can now look and say, yeah, that's a lot of 6s or that's a lot of 20s or whatever it is, and you're like, I'm not fucking with you. You're dead.
Did someone say Robert Adams?
It might have been Robert Adams.
Yeah, it is.
Okay. It was Robert something. I said Robert E. Howard, but
Yeah.
it wasn't that early.
And then maybe that's one of the reasons, or maybe one of the excuses for rolling out in the open is so that if things go sideways and you do a really good hit, or celerity's involved, or whatever it is, I mean, with L5R, you got that crit, and it's like, dude, we're dueling. There are my dice. There they are, and you're like, okay. And in many ways, and I think as a player, seeing that happen, seeing those dice roll out, and you're like, it's just fate. It's what happens at that point. And I think that helps me on that journey to my character into the afterlife. Just seeing those dice with all those pips at the top, and like, all right.
Yep.
That's the way it works. I think maybe that's, as a GM and maybe even as a player, that's the way to make that work, is to see the mechanics play it out. Because I think most of the time, unless your GM's a dick, it's mechanically based. Your character dies because of mechanics. Celerity, you roll a crit, you got ganged up on by 30 kobolds, your sorcerer went down the one corridor, whatever it is.
Or Blackleaf missed the poison trap, and I declare her dead.
And now you have to leave.
And now you have to leave.
That's playing that's Blackleaf rules.
That's Blackleaf.
Like if your character dies in the session, you
have
gotta
to
go.
leave. You
In fact, I
can't
told
come
that to Kimmy.
You have to check out. You actually have to put it.
I said, Kimmy, you gotta go. We're playing Blackleaf rules.
Does that mean you have to get a noose and actually hang yourself? Like when you go, you have to check out. You have to check out.
Well, if you want to learn the real magic, you have to play the real game.
Yeah.
I just reread that.
All right.
It's a piece of gold.
It's awesome. I love it.
I know.
Is that horse beaten enough? I think
That horse is beaten enough.
Lots of leather in that.
Yeah.
For now. We can
Gaining
make a saddle.
levels. Gaining levels response from Chris in Canada. You want to read this one since you're like the old D&D guy?
Is this an old D&D one? I can totally read this one.
Kind of.
The brontosaurus is thin on one end, much thicker in the middle, and very thin again on the other hand.
That's it. That's your theory, is it?
Hi, Stu and the douche crew. 2. That could have I could have read that better. Hi, Stu and the douche crew 2.
There it is.
Yeah.
The douche crew too, coming right at you.
It's
the
the
douche crew
canoe.
coming right at you. It's the. Go look up the Newzoo review.
Newzoo review. That's right. God, I haven't thought about that in ever. You bring out the old in me, Stork.
You're old. You can tell by all the gray in your beard.
Yeah, I know. Anyway, I am slowly working my way through the Happy Jacks backlog, jumping backwards one session at a time while trying to keep up with the new content.
He's like a looper.
He totally is. Back and forth, back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
Your show is a blessing during my tedious commute.
Oh, he's totally looping now because he's commuting. See what he's saying? He is a looper. He can.
You're welcome, my child.
Yes.
Regarding the objection to instant skill jumps during level advancement, Happy
What is
Jacks
that?
Season 12 episode.
Black licorice. Sorry.
Toothless stew.
I can't show it to you now.
Oh,
there he is. Okay, right over here. Right there.
Oh, it's
You can sit
Rob.
next to him if you want.
Rob, come on, dude. Come sit next to me, man.
You guys want audience participation, right? Chat room participation.
You said participation, right?
There's your mic.
He's so.
Oh.
Sorry, I think I popped the mic.
Yeah, you popped the mic, but that's
Now I
okay.
need to wash my face with.
I think something else popped over here.
Now you have cheek herpes.
Is that cheek herpes?
Yeah.
What's up, man?
Were you in the chat room and went, that's it, I'm coming in?
I
Yeah.
told him. I said, Jet.
I said it looks lonely with only a couple people.
Yeah.
So now we just look lonely together.
Two lonely souls
You need paper.
wandering in the night.
Catch up.
All right. So we're on that one. there.
Okay.
Yeah. So regarding the objection to instant skill jumps during level advancement, discussed in Happy Jacks Season 12, Episode 9, at approximately 30 minutes in.
Are you sure it was 30 minutes in? 'Cause I seem to remember it really wasn't. I think it was actually 27:08.
That's why he said at approximately.
Okay.
Yeah, he does have the little squiggle.
A little squiggle there means
I'm just
approximately.
saying. Because I remember that episode.
Yeah, the tilde.
I remember
Or the
that.
tiled.
I totally remember that
Little
episode.
tiled.
I thought the tilde was the little.
It is. You're right.
Yeah.
I don't know what
No,
that
it's
is.
the.
No,
that?
it's the. No, that's the enye.
Yeah.
Is it?
I don't know.
Inya's an Irish singer, and Tilda Swinton is a British
Yeah.
actress.
Or
So
an
I don't even
Oklahoma.
know what you guys are talking
Yeah.
about.
In first and second edition AD&D, you don't automatically jump to the next level when you attain the minimum XP amount. See 1st edition DMG, page 86, 2nd edition revised DMG, page 71.
We just got to actually, didn't we? Because that's the way we played it. I would just jump up.
This guy has done his homework. Chris in Canada, man. Good on you. You must take time out from adventuring to maintain accurate time records. No. You must take time out from adventuring, could easily be 4 or more weeks, to find a tutor and pay for the training that will consolidate and translate what you've recently experienced into tangible increases in your skills. Pluses, new weapons, new spells, etc. No further XP can be accrued until you complete the training. More than one of my characters died while out adventuring with sufficient XP to level up, still desperately scraping together funds, because my first GM was a miserable skinflint amongst other transgressions. Oh, the horrible memories. Frankly, I'm surprised I stayed in the hobby during those formative months. Chris in Canada, who goes by Bobcat on the forums.
Because Bobcat with 1 T was taken already.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or maybe he's from Banff.
Bam.
So it's Bobcat.
Bobcat. That is correct. Those rules exist. I think...
Never played them that way.
No, I think I played them that way once and then said F these things and never used them again.
Well, is this the way Dragonlance was written? Because remember, they always took those breaks, like those off scenes, and they'd always come back a year later and be a little bit more powerful or
Right.
something along those lines. So I guess it makes sense.
And to be fair, now, as a much older person, having GM'd, I think that I might actually have fun with those interludes. It would be fun to go into town and you could speed it through. You could say things like, "All right, so you're training. You could do it in 20 minutes or whatever. But I think it might be fun to play that out as opposed to just suddenly you gain inspiration. You can do amazing things, or even in 4E, you suddenly have a whole new spell set you've never ever tried before, but suddenly it just comes into your head.
Well, 2 things. First of all, I think you guys are playing that out very well in Vampire. I know you guys are talking about Vampire a lot tonight, but in the Motive Sin,
You were listening.
a little bit on the drive down. But you guys are playing out the, I'm going to teach you this, you need to teach me that, you know, and as you gain dots and stuff like that. But the way that I see it, instead of it, oh, I've automatically hit this threshold, now I know new things and I can do cool things, is that the entire level before, you're sitting there and you're practicing it and you're training for it and you're failing more often than you're succeeding, so that by the time that you get to that arbitrary line in the sand, you're now succeeding more than you're failing. And it's the flip. As far as magic goes, you can always argue like you're studying the whole time, experimenting and trying to figure that out, and it all kind of takes place off camera. You could do it on camera, and I think that I've seen some magnificent role players do it. But I don't see it as like, oh, I've hit this mystical line, now I know more shit. It's, I've been practicing all this shit up to this mystical line, and now I can do it better.
And now
than
I can get it.
Yeah.
Now I get it.
That's the way I always did. You know, when you level up in D&D, you get a new spell as a spellcaster. You get a new spell, and that's the way I always played that off. Is that's the net result of you spending your last level, you know, experimenting in your laboratory or trying new formulas when you're sitting out in the woods or whatever.
Studying some book or
stuff. It all kind of happens off camera, but as a wizard, you're not just sitting there, you know, memorizing the same spells every day so you can go into the dungeon and use those spells and then have nothing left. You're honing your craft all the time. That's yeah.
As adventurers, I mean, you hike, you've camped. There's a lot of downtime.
Oh yeah.
There's a lot of like, you really only hike or camp for about 4 or 5 hours, and the rest of it is setting up camp, taking camp back down, cleaning up, and moving on. I mean, so there's a lot of time. And then when it gets dark, you just can't do anything anymore. So you sit there by candlelight doing stuff, studying,
burn shit,
or whatever. Yeah. But I guess it's assumed within the character that that's what happens. But there is a line in the same, mechanically speaking. And that's the way role-playing games or online games are done. All of a sudden, you know, dun 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 dun, in EverQuest or whatever it is, lights or whatever, and suddenly you know new shit. Yeah, all of a sudden.
Well, but you always bring up, you know, I go out and I kill rats.
Right.
Right. So when you ding, you can now kill the shit out of those rats, because you've been spending 2 or 3 levels killing rats.
I understand the juxtaposition,
Yeah.
but and mechanically speaking, you still get that line in the center. I'm just not sure people play it up right, and I. Technically speaking, what you're supposed to do is stop, or you don't actually gain that level until you go and train.
Well,
So you
he's
could-
talking about earlier versions of the game.
I get it.
Which were completely broken, and Gary Gygax had no idea what he was doing, right?
Well,
That's
but-
what we've all agreed, right?
But you could say that. You could say that.
Yeah, okay. Well, next email.
Can you go back into your car again?
I'm sorry.
I think
How dare you?
I think it depends on.
dare you.
I don't mind if someone wants to say, "Hey, I just got my level. I want to use the new stuff I got." Yeah, whatever.
I think during
bother
combat,
me.
it gets a little dodgy.
In the middle of a combat, no.
Yeah.
You have to wait until combat's over if you're going to level up your
Yeah.
character. I'm
And-
sorry.
And I always appreciate.
Well, I
it's-
don't normally award XP until after the combat or at the end of the session.
At the end of the
End of the
session,
session.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's fair to say at the end of the session. I mean, especially with something like 4E, where you hit that level where your character completely changes.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
you get a bunch of new powers, and you have to get rid of a bunch of powers.
Right.
Yeah,
So
that's
it's like,
a little-
how do
that
you
was a
justify
little-
that? You can't
yeah.
just you wake up one day and like, I'm a completely different person.
Right.
Which is what pissed me off about 4E.
Or right in the middle of that combat. Oh shit! I can't cast magic missile anymore.
But
I've got this other
I
new
got a
spell
lightning
now.
bolt.
I don't know if anybody can justify 4E.
Yeah, that's
So I don't. I'd have to think about.
I don't want
that.
to. We keep getting
I
flack
know.
for hating too much.
No,
But
no. I have an opinion.
You know,
I didn't like it.
You're the hater, though. It's okay. You can do
That's
it.
true. That's true. Yeah. 4E.
true.
I'm glad it brought people into the hobby, and then I'm glad they fixed the hobby right afterwards. Yeah.
That's. I still say
God, that should be a,
that is
should be the byline.
that is the one version of D&D that I have not read cover to cover.
You need a life.
Yeah. Wait, no, he has one. That's why he hasn't read it cover to cover.
No.
No, I didn't read it cover to cover because I went, what the.
4E has a lot going for it, and we had fun playing the game.
Sure.
But
Until combats got really long.
Yeah.
really, I mean, it was up to that point and then we all went, wait a moment.
But I think that's true with all the games that you run. You have fun with them until there's a long combat, and then you're done.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of games that don't have long combats. Vampire combats aren't long. Star Wars combats aren't long.
Vampire combats.
And
took 2
L5R combats
episodes.
can be long, and yet the game was still fun.
Vampire
They
combat-
can be long.
They can be, but they're not not in our game.
And the L5R combats can be long, and have been long, but the game's still
But
interesting and fun.
not hours, not a whole session.
That's true.
I mean, remember we had
fair.
a couple combats that went on for like 4 hours.
We had 11 people, but yeah, to be fair,
Yeah,
yeah.
listen, you did have 11 people.
Well, even when it was like fewer people.
He's right. He's right.
Well,
I'm not. Why am I justifying 4E all of a sudden? How'd that happen?
Really? Wow.
I'm the
Sympathizer.
apologist.
Welcome to Opposite Land.
That's why he has the goatee. He's the evil stork.
Mechanical cannon in RPGs from Vincent.
God, if you had a mechanical cannon in an RPG, you would own everything. Yeah.
Well, it's called a boom gun. That's
boom
what
gun.
it is.
Le boom.
Been-
Hi, happy Jackaroonies. If you don't mind too much, I'd like to jump in on the discussion during season 19, episode 11, where Stork and the rest were talking about the relative merits of D&D versus more narrativist games like Apocalypse World.
Like we were just doing.
Is
merits-
that's the opposite
the
world
merits-
there? What?
Merits of D20, not D&D.
D20. Okay.
Just to be specific.
In any system with a lot of crunch, there is canon built into the mechanical descriptions of things. For example, if you fall X feet, you take 1d6 damage, points of damage, twice that for 2d6, etc. Because of that canon, when you look at the tall wall, you know how much danger you'll be in if you fall off. Of course, if you're at level 10, you can fall any distance and not die.
Or if you're in D&D.
That's in 5th edition. In a system where the rules don't say, then everyone can look at the wall and have a different understanding of how dangerous it is. No consequences, just damage, broken legs, broken everything, or instant death.
And which is why as a side note, this is one of my rules for games, which is how deadly is it if you fall down the stairs?
Yeah.
So falling down the stairs in GURPS will kill you. Falling down the stairs in D&D, not a problem.
Won't do anything.
Depending on what level you are.
Now
that's true.
the wall is the same thing. I mean, you're basically using the wall of the stairs. I use stairs because stairs are funnier. Ow, ooh, ah, ooh, and it could take 20 minutes. It's hysterical.
First level wizard can just bump his head on the doorway on the way out and die. Dunk. Oh!
Yep, completely balanced system.
I think there are definitely players who want to listen to the descriptions of things and already know what those things mean without having to ask or having to give a description that then becomes canon. For instance, if you're having a fight on top of a wall and you want to know whether throwing the enemy off the wall, throwing the enemy off of it is death or just a few hit points worth of damage, if it's just damage, then you may finish off the enemies by dropping them, but if it's instant death, you can spend all combat pushing mobs off. Additionally, for many GMs, it is important that they understand the consequences of their descriptions. A 20-foot wall might be tall enough to stop a horde of barbarians, but if they want a really imposing wall, they might want to know how tall the wall needs to be so that even seasoned adventurers could not scale it without risking death. And once you have the height of the wall, say 200 feet, maybe that influences your description of the city behind the walls. Maybe it's built into the mountainside with multiple levels of stone archways that support the wall so that it will never fall inwards and crush the city below.
Minas Tirith?
I was just thinking that.
What may have started as a way to deter the party from climbing the wall to avoid the guards has turned into flavor for the city, for the rest of the city as a whole. So for the person writing in about whether and why D20 might be preferred, I think that there is a certain comfort for D20 veterans who know how the world behaves, so that descriptions become something meaningful and specific in their minds. Naturally, your mileage may vary. Thanks for your podcast, Vincent, the lonely airport manager from Paw.
Aw, airport manager.
Dog walks into a bar. I'm looking for the guy that shot my paw.
Do you ever see the meme I put up with my puppy? I superimposed a little kilt on her paw.
Yes,
I'm looking
I
for the
did.
man who killed my paw.
That's right. I did see that. That gave me amusement.
So I generally agree, and I think game mechanics very often will help players determine how dangerous the world is.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly that's
Yeah.
I think that's absolutely true. And I can see how it might require more description in the case of more narrativist games and less simulationist games.
I know that gravity's a cruel mistress, and I know depending on the game system I'm playing in, and usually based on watching what happens to NPCs or even other players, it changes completely how I play a game. In Traveller or GURPS, I am much more cautious than I am in D&D or Champions or Heroes or even Savage Worlds. Because I know
Traveller,
full well.
In Traveller, you will hide behind people and then leave them abandoned on planets.
No, literally, you will.
It actually changes the way you will approach a combat. It's like, what can I hide behind? Or what's my rate of fire? All of this stuff becomes much more important than it used to be. I think that having a deadly system it's a choice you make, but it's not always the right choice. I mean, if you want to play a pulp game, if you want to play a game where everybody's super, if you want to play Conan, you don't necessarily want it to be deadly. You want to just own it. You just want to like wade into the hordes of picks and come out the other side covered in their blood. I mean, that's awesome.
Sure, yeah.
Little smudges of blue.
Right, but that's the choice that as a game.
That's the
that you're
decision
making.
you make when you're deciding what kind of what game system you're going to play.
Exactly.
When I read this, and I don't know if I've listened to the episode that he's referring to, but when I read this, it seems to me that there's a scale that he's talking about, like or that basically that it's being it's being written as a 1-0. You're either a player that needs the mechanics and needs the background to understand the canon or how deadly a system is, or I know if I'm going to fall off this wall, I'm going to die, therefore I know how to deal with the world. And you know, he's talking about those people in this case, but it seems to me it's a scale of your more strategic or I guess logical thinkers, and then your more theatrical players.
Well, that's an interesting point.
Right?
Oh yeah.
So for instance,
Here we're going with this.
yeah, like I think that I've seen people who are like, Well, even if it's a canon that they know, like, well, tell me about the wall. Tell me what's going on. Let me figure out what I can do with this. Give me all of the details. Let me see where it's going. And they can adapt system to system much faster than I've got a friend, Steve Merrill, who played Ghost in your Ghostbusters game, that refuses to learn another system because he knows Savage Worlds so well that he will not play another system because it is not Savage Worlds and he does not know the rules and does not understand what falling damage is and what this and
He's
what
supposed
that
to be a
and what
snowflake and be the center of attention. We actually, that was one of our emails earlier.
Oh, good. Yeah. No. But so basically, like, I think that there's just it's a sliding scale, and everyone fits in somewhere on this.
I have a task for our listeners.
Dude, you're so...
After, big boy.
Okay.
Here's my task for the listeners, because we often get hammered on not knowing PBTA and talking about it anyway.
That means powered by the apocalypse.
Thank you.
Not
Thank
me.
you.
You don't talk about it, or you don't know it?
I don't. I haven't played it enough to have a solid opinion.
He doesn't talk about it because he doesn't know it.
Yeah, ditto.
I've learned a bit about it, but not enough to answer this question. And that question is, in any Powered by the Apocalypse game, what determines how long of a fall off of a wall is deadly and what is not? So when a character says, hey, I'm on top of this wall, it's 20 feet high, is that enough to kill somebody if I throw it off? Or is it just going to damage them? Where does that come from?
Hold on. That's not, you can't even
make that specific.
Yeah, because like Masks, which is a supers game,
yeah,
the answer is going to be different than it would be if it was just straight apocalypse world, just a dude rolling around like in Fallout.
It's fine. Make it Dungeon World.
I don't even
since we brought up D20, which is like it or not D&D.
Oh, I don't like that. You take that back because it's absolutely not true, and I'm offended that you would say that.
Too bad.
Okay.
It's also Pathfinder.
Basic role playing.
Pathfinder.
What is it? But BRPs and the same thing?
No.
There's a lot. Spycraft was D20.
Spycraft was
D20.
No, I agree, but we're kind of talking about D&D.
You are.
There was a Traveler 20.
Do I need to take your ass outside?
Are you hitting on me again?
Totally, yes.
Okay, cool.
No, but I want to know that because I don't know the answer to that, and I think that would have some good bearing on this conversation. Because the premise here is that some people like to be able to look at a wall and say this wall is 20 feet tall. If I fall off of it, I'm going to take X D6 points of damage. How can a player determine that in Dungeon World or Apocalypse World?
I think there's a faster way for you to find that out. There are JackerCon games going on all this week, and some of them are powered by the Apocalypse, and you should play into it.
That's all you have to do is get in the game, climb up on a wall, and jump off and see what happens.
Jump off and see. Or I could just ask any one of our awesome listeners who are full of information on Powered by the Apocalypse games to say, how does this work?
It's one thing to be told. It's another thing to see for yourself.
Buddha. I had no idea you were so short.
Agreed.
And fat.
Well, that's Buddha.
Yeah.
I'm trying to involve our listeners here.
I'm trying to get you to play JackerCon and them too.
Yep.
Anyway.
Oh yeah, jackercon.com. Go and sign up for games right now.
Anyway, if someone can answer that, that would be awesome. I would appreciate it.
Here's my caveat with that is that I think that that's fair to say with any system, not just Apocalypse World. I think if I'm going to be fighting a bunch of guys on the top of a wall and I knock them off, and it's up to the GM to say, well, they die or they live. If they live, that's fine. They're still not going to be able to attack me because I'm on top of a 20-foot wall or even a 200-foot wall.
Right.
It's not really necessarily going to affect my gameplay. But the strategy involved is it's easier for me to knock them off the wall than it is for me to kill them and move on to the next guy. I'll just keep knocking them off that wall.
Sure.
That's a strategy that I could use. But also, it doesn't matter if they live or die. They're out of play. They cannot affect me anymore.
Unless they have bows and arrows.
Well, yes, but if you fall off the wall, get up with the broken arms, and then start flinging. But that's a chance I'm willing to take.
How many games have enough granularity that they're going to have broken arms?
GURPS. But the point being, one.
Hero? Would Hero do that?
Yeah, it might. Not really. I don't think it's
sin? Or not
no.
Moment of truth.
And I'm actually going to postulate or at least expand upon the fact that I think that people approaching the problem from a storytelling and from a tactical thing often arrive at the same. The storytelling thing is, how awesome would it be? I'm standing on the bridge and I'm knocking them off left and right. And the tactical thing is actually I think that ideally that rather than killing them one at a time, if I knock them off, they're out of play. And it says here that if I do this, falling damage is this. Doesn't really matter how you got there. They're both having an awesome epic moment on that bridge.
Exactly. Absolutely true. Yeah.
There you go.
Unless you hate. One thing, Stu, though, it was funny because I think Sork mentioned it, is that, you know, how deadly a system depends on how you play the game. When we play tested the very first moment of truth,
It was very deadly.
we didn't know that until Dave's trucker got it full on in the face with one
One
bullet
shot, one shot.
and became
Dropped.
like just like a Gallagher watermelon
Yeah.
in front of all of us, and we were like, oh shit. And that was almost a TPK.
He had like 3 hit points.
Yeah.
His character started out with 3 hit
Remember
points.
earlier in the podcast where you're like, no, I haven't killed a bunch of players.
Oh yeah.
I have determined that is a lie based on
It
personal
is.
evidence.
I don't.
Yeah.
I didn't think about that one. Also, I don't really think about play tests.
Yeah, that was
It's
that
still-
didn't count.
It
Right.
counts.
But also the Call of Cthulhu game, that was a
Yeah,
TPK.
That's true. Yeah. I was the only one that made it out of that moment of truth game.
No,
Everybody else died.
but no, little crazy trucker girl.
No, this
disappeared
was
in the woods.
before Trucker Girl.
Oh, yeah, that might be, huh?
Yeah. Don't put your Trucker Girl up in me.
Trucker Grill.
Tucker Girl. Skater Girl.
No,
was
that's
a
Kitty.
skater.
It wasn't Roller Girl.
That's Kitty.
No,
she
that
wasn't
was
Roller
no,
Girl.
You were
I was a little punk rock girl.
Punk rock girl.
She was a punk
There you
rock
go.
girl, yeah.
Not
I
Trucker
was
Girl.
basically modeled her after
Tank
Tank
Girl.
Girl.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right.
Punk
Tank
rock
Girl.
girl.
Child, and they were many girls, just
You and me, punk rock girl.
You want to read the last one?
Sure. Effective use of non-player characters.
Dun.
From Steve in SoCal.
It's like how we fix the show. We need an NPC, so we call him Rob.
Yeah. But I'm a GMPC, so I get all the levels.
You know, I just before you start, I meant to tell you guys. You've heard of the Stanford prison experiment?
Yes. Yes.
There's a like docudrama about it.
Explain the Stanford prison experiment for our friends that may
Well
not-
said. Yes, you're
In
right.
1972, a psychology professor at Stanford, right at the start of summer, went and got 18 students, and then they screened them, and then randomly made 9 of them prisoners, and the other 9 prison guards. Prison guards worked in shifts. The prisoners spent 24 hours a day in their prison, which was a hallway with 3 offices that had been cleared out. They had beds in them, and they had bars in the windows. And then they had a closet they used as the hole for isolation. And within like less than 2 days, the guards started getting hyper abusive with the prisoners.
There was a dramatic authoritarian shift.
They're playing their characters, man.
Yeah.
They're playing to their dits heads.
So the premise of it was
One
that
of them says that he was doing that. The other one's just like, I don't know why I was doing
I'm being
it.
glib because it's a fucked up experiment.
It's
really
great
it's
experiment.
really creepy about what it says about human psyches.
Absolutely,
and,
yeah.
and class distinction and
But that was like the premise of the study was that some people just well, that will happen to them when they're put in that situation.
turns out all people
Oh, interesting.
Can I play
to a certain
Fallout?
extent.
No, you can't play Fallout. Sorry.
Okay.
Carry on.
Okay, sorry.
That's
I was fascinated
But
by
I
the
can
conversation.
play Halo?
Yeah, it's a T-rated.
You're killing aliens. You're not killing actual
Yeah.
people and dogs.
As a fan of the ESRB, Halo is T-rated and therefore
Oh, it
we're
is?
okay. Yeah, Halo's
Okay,
T-rated.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah, because their blood is like colorful and shiny.
For
Yeah.
those of you that couldn't actually hear what Zach said, you hear Rob responding to something that nobody of you heard.
You can usually pick up the kids on the mics.
Okay.
Okay. Hello all from Steve in SoCal, the Grimace on the forums.
Remember the Grimace? Grimace was one of the least fortunate of the McDonald Land characters.
He was one of my
The
favorites.
big purple.
Yeah.
Hamburglar was my favorite. But
Yeah.
I like the hamburger too.
Mayor
Wasn't
McCheese.
Grimace and the Hamburglar sort of like partners?
Bosom buddies?
Yes. And I do believe that
They had a sitcom together.
they have Mayor McCheese, and I do believe that
One
they
was
got
from a
in-
foreign land, the other one was his cousin. Yeah.
Right.
Go ahead.
Do you remember the Jack in the Box ones? French fry guy and all those?
Oh, yeah.
Well, let me stick to this one because otherwise it's going to fall in my head. But I
No,
do
we'll
believe
hold
they
it
got
in.
in trouble with the HR Puff and Stuff guys because Mayor McCheese was very similar. Anyway,
Everyone
HR,
was
puff and stuff.
smoking pot back then
Where to
anyway.
go when things are rough?
As I write this, I'm about halfway through season 19, episode 11, where you all are arguing about GM NPCs, party NPCs, henchmen, hirelings, and the like. I'd like to chime in with a few centavos of ideas and examples from my gaming group. While I think everyone is justifiably wary or outright against having a GM character toting around with the party and stealing the spotlight from players, there are some flavors of recurring NPC which can be super useful tools in the GM toolkit. For each of these examples, I'll use Ueda.
It's Ueda, yeah.
It's Ueda from the L5R campaign as my NPC stand-in, which I think was one of the ones we were talking about as that example.
Sure.
When we were having this conversation, because I think I was there for this.
You were
one.
there.
Yeah.
Perfect to have you back.
Yay. Having, number one, point the first, to quote Stork. Having well fleshed out NPCs sometimes accompanying the party as a co-combatant means that when you, the GM, want to amp up the severity of the situation, you can kill, maim, or otherwise imperil the NPC to convey the point. Want to convince the party that this particular bad guy is a pretty badass? Well, suddenly, Ueda takes an arrow to the throat, and you don't know if he's going to survive. Not only does everyone pay more attention, but now you've also spiced up the combat because maybe the focus becomes half the party trying to staunch the bleeding or carrying the giant lug out of harm's way. This is a commonly used method for one of my GMs. It allows him to amp up the adrenaline without incapacitating a PC, which tends to ruin the fun for that player, like Kimmy. We don't regularly travel with...
Like, you get shot by an arrow, you're not dead, but now you're incapacitated, so everybody else has to now carry you off the battlefield.
That's worse than being dead?
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
well,
it is.
so that happened in one of the games. Was it... Steven was in it. So I think it was... I think it might have been your Traveler... Yeah, the very first Traveler game you did.
Yeah, there was gunfight.
Yeah, and who you got knocked out for like 6 rounds.
Yeah, well, I did it to myself. Remember, I critical failed,
Yeah.
and I knocked myself out.
At one
And
point,
I rolled one
everyone
dice
but
and rolled
Kimmy.
a 6, and we're like,
Yeah, Kimmy had to save the day with
Yeah.
like a tiny little gun or like knife.
even
or
you
something.
failed.
I wasn't
you
in that
never
one.
fail. All right.
I wasn't in that one. I don't fail.
You never fail?
I mean,
He's-
I
he's
sat next
the-
to you, so
he's
tonight
the
counts
opposite of
as
me.
as a failure.
Oh, did you hear that?
Tonight counts as a failure.
Oh.
Yeah.
Even
Oh, snap.
all his friends have said he's the polar opposite of me. In fact, when we played a game together, I played this ranger, and I failed all my rolls. I'm Mr. Banner, I'll say, when he swings in and made like all these amazing rolls, I'm like,
He was my mentor. I was,
was-
like a 13-year-old kid, and I
Yeah.
kept saving his ass.
it was really
It
fun.
was actually a lot of fun. Yeah. That was your Savage World Fantasy, right? Yeah,
Yep.
something like that.
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So we don't regularly travel with NPCs in the party, but it happens periodically, and probably 50% of our combats employ some level of ally, bystander, or other NPC we have to at least keep an eye on. It's like the shitty quests that you get in WoW or Fallout or something like that. The convoy quest. What am I thinking
The
of?
follow quest?
Yeah, follow quest. Thank you. God, those annoy the shit out of me.
They totally do.
The
It's
7 keys of Entuzler is
No,
Cappy used to say.
it's like
go
Here, you
pick
gotta
up this
follow
guy,
this
go
guy.
it's like,
deliver
go
this
find
guy.
this old Torah.
Yeah.
Escort quest.
That's
What I
it,
was
yeah,
looking for.
yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for
those-
whoever was yelling at your phone or your radio during the I heard you. It's surprising but rewarding how much time, effort, and resources we end up expending just trying to keep the various NPCs alive. The key for this kind of use is to simplify the NPC's role so they don't take up a lot of camera time, which should be spent on the PCs. Mm-hmm. Point the second.
Just 1 second. I'm always reminded of the workers in WoW, and the original WoW, which is
like the orcs and stuff like that.
Okay.
Okay. Zug zug. Who'd you want me to kill?
Okay, exactly.
Yeah.
So they're not the brightest, and they only do what they're told. Okay.
Work's done.
Well,
Yep.
that was kind of Ueda. Like, he wasn't
Yeah.
the brightest, but he passionately did what he was told,
Sure.
and it's like, hey, guard the door, hold the door. Oh, okay, I will.
Hold the door.
Yeah.
4 days later, wait, you can. Okay.
Yeah. Number 2. Having a trusted and capable NPC around means that you don't have to be bogged down by minutia. Your traveler party just landed on a seedy space station and needs to disembark, but you're justifiably concerned that leaving the ship unattended
Oh, trigger warning! Trigger warning!
will lead to some random Twi'lek masseuse stealing your ride. I don't know if I can go on.
And I'm still pissed that they lost my masseuse.
If anything,
We're
I
never gonna
freed
finish
her.
that game either.
That's the part that breaks my damn heart. The damn GM's leaving. Okay. Well, isn't it a lucky that Ueda the space steward is your ship's cook and former Marine gunnery sergeant who has been with you for years? Even if he won't be able to hold off a massive ambush, he can probably get a message to you, hold off assailants for a while, or maybe even get away long enough for you to return.
He's busy stooping the Twi'lek. She didn't have any time to go steal the ship. They were busy like shagging in the bunks.
That would have been okay too.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
Well,
you
if
might.
you had Ueda, you wouldn't need a masseuse.
Right?
That's true.
What?
Very gentle hands.
Yes.
Supple.
Supple.
Oh.
Otherwise, you might be compelled to leave behind a PC to twiddle their thumbs just in case.
Right. That
So-
would suck.
Yes, it would.
That's kind of what anyway.
What? No.
I was thinking at some point that we could train her up. That's why I was teaching her how to shoot.
I have no problem. You know, I'll hire anybody at the drop of an effing hat. I had zero problem with anybody, except she stole my ship. I like that ship. That was my ship.
I understand.
You guys ever get to finish that game?
No.
I liked
Oh,
my
what a
masseuse.
crime.
That was my masseuse.
So you never got to find out if you got
Look
that
at
ship
it this
back?
way. Your masseuse got a free ship.
No.
How
Yeah.
awesome
That
is
must
that?
suck
After
pretty
the top
Yeah,
sheet.
yeah, but to see the DM quit the game,
That's a
I
tip.
didn't.
That's a good tip. A whole ship and no handy.
You don't know that. You don't know what she was doing.
I had never even gotten a massage.
It's your own problem.
I never had time.
It was a pretty big
We're
ship.
too busy with our ops. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, maybe if somebody hadn't fucked up the roll, the op would have gone faster. I don't know. All I know is you were.
He's the
I'm
guy that
pointing
made the
fingers.
explosives.
There's plenty,
Anyways.
there's plenty of blame to
This
go
was
around.
like Reservoir Dogs. Everyone just started pointing fingers at each
I'm
other.
pointing fingers.
There's plenty of blame to go around, but I remember he was unconscious for all of it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah.
because explosives.
Because explosives. So there's a third point in this email,
Go ahead.
and it's called. Well, but also let me go back to this really quickly. If you got that PC in there or that NPC just kind of doing things, it also kind of limits the story a little bit, because if we had that, the GM can't take advantage of us making those choices of leaving things alone or
Sure.
being able to exploit some of the openings that we provide.
Manpower becomes a resource that becomes relevant in the game.
Yeah.
And if you have a lot, I mean, that's one of the things in the Traveler game that I was running, Ashes of Exodus.
Yeah.
There is a large pool of players, all of whom are crewmen on the ship, but there's only 5 or 6 at the table any given time. All the rest, it's assumed when you're off on some planet doing something, all the rest are on the ship,
Yeah.
making sure the ship doesn't get taken away.
Or waiting for that 18-month communication beam to come back.
Right, exactly, right.
Yeah, but if we had just gotten back on the ship and then went into space and the game ended, we wouldn't be talking about it still.
Oh, you're completely right,
This
Right.
but I want my fucking ship.
But that's the point, is that Bill exploited the NPC and used it to such
Yes.
he orchestrated that situation so well that we are still talking about
That's
it.
what I'm saying. Is that if
It
we
makes a much better story.
correct, and that's kind of the point that I'm bringing up, is that you don't need that NPC around. Yeah, sometimes it's cool and helpful a little bit, but to Stu's point, if manpower is a resource and you have to make those hard decisions, those are openings that the GM can exploit, where having like those random NPCs around are kind of like,
You have a bunch of
it's-
unobserved NPCs sitting around on your ship, something's going to happen.
it's a little cheat codey though, to be like the great protector comes
Maybe.
and always watches my shit. You know,
yeah,
kind
yeah.
of thing.
Well, yeah. I see what you're saying.
That's
with
what
that.
I'm
Yeah,
saying, yeah. So, all right, number 3. Having a narrative way to split the party without ruining everyone's fun in times of hard choice. Okay. The enemy is raiding a town, and you're the only combat-capable folks around. Unfortunately, you see forces heading for the orphanage, as well as the town's only tavern. Which is...
Save the
What a
tavern!
conundrum.
Yeah. Whatever. If
Why
they,
are the kids in the tavern?
if they were real children, they'd have parents.
They were real children. They'd be
Oh damn, dude. Well, I was gonna say. I mean, it's an easy choice. People can always make more kids.
right? And given the fact that they're at a tavern, they'll get hammered enough and they'll start making more right then and there.
Right
at
then and
night.
there.
Most of them were probably conceived there anyway.
Yeah.
Why
Yeah.
aren't they working there? Come on.
That's true. They should then get out of the orphanage, go to work.
Right.
Pour my beer.
That's right. Which of these important edifices do you save? Well, you could split the party, the realistic choice, but from a gameplay perspective, that's a drag. Instead, you send Ueda to carry away as many delicious orphans as he can. I question the word delicious.
Delicious there. That doesn't.
But that's
yeah.
okay. While the main party goes after the truly important stuff, the beer. Or maybe at least he runs off to get help while the party fights the delaying action. Well,
I get it.
yeah, I dig it. Number 4. Similar to number 1 above, sometimes it helps to just have a well-loved and known NPCs floating around, even if not directly in the party. That you can punch the PCs with the impact of their loss. We routinely have NPCs of ex-players or just other combat-capable regular NPCs who have adventures with us in the past littered about. That way, when you tell the story of how Ueda got his ass handed to him by Baron Von Badass, it's not only personal, but it also sets a level of seriousness or difficulty. If a random villager is scared, that could mean you're facing kobolds or a dragon. But if Ueda is scared, that shit just got real. As another translated example, when you get the mysterious package delivered, which turns out to be Ueda's head in the box,
What's in the box?
the
Oh,
pieces
God.
are suddenly paying attention. Anyway, those are just a few ways to use and abuse Ueda for fun and profit. Thanks for the advice and entertainment, Steve in SoCal, the Grimace, on the forums.
I don't think any of us are against NPCs.
No.
In fact, and everything you brought up are wonderful uses of NPCs. We're just against abusing the NPC when it becomes a GM NPC, and I think we can all agree on that.
Yeah.
And you bring up some great examples of how to use an NPC properly. But and I don't think any of us are going to say that those examples are wrong. I'm not going to argue that. Those are wonderful ways of using an NPC properly. But how many times have we all seen that go sideways quickly?
When NPC suddenly takes the spotlight.
Yeah,
Right.
when the only person who can solve a problem is Umeda.
Which is
Right.
not
Because it's
happening.
an M.
It doesn't
Right.
happen all the time. There are lots of people out there that are responsible GMs and play their NPCs properly, but we've seen it go. All it takes is once, maybe twice, and you're like very leery of those NPCs.
If there were
anymore.
enough responsible GMs in the world, we wouldn't have a podcast to talk about the
true.
shit that's gone sideways.
That's true.
Right.
right? So God bless the irresponsible GMs, and you keep doing the Lord's work.
I guess.
Keep running shitty games so we can talk about
That's right.
them.
By the way,
in fact,
I
I
haven't
wanna-
heard a horror story in a while.
I was going to say I want a sub forum on that.
I haven't had. I want to say, we're light on emails. So if you have,
I can hear the wave crashing now.
if you have questions you want to ask or comments you want to make, horror stories, confessions, all that stuff, now's the time to send them because I probably only have enough emails for like one more episode right now.
Oh,
what's
I've
up?
got like 7 that I can send in.
Because I was getting 6 to 8 emails a week. Mm-hmm. Now I'm getting 3. So and that's
Step it up, folks.
So there you go. So if you
Nobody
have
cares
questions,
anymore.
Well, you might get an
They don't
email
like us
from
anymore.
Jim Hartley.
That guy sounds like a dick.
He totally is. an
I'm not
asshole.
going to say that some of our early emails may have been written by hosts, but some of our early emails may have been
Well,
written
hold
by
on,
hosts.
hold on. does it count that one of the main email writers moved out here to be a host? Like,
No, that doesn't count.
That's a significant
That's true,
portion.
huh?
Yeah.
Well, yes, that's
Yeah.
true.
Especially
Well,
word per page.
Yeah, some of his emails were an entire show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just to read it.
Yeah.
Hey, speaking of the forums, we opened up a whole bunch of new forums. Mm-hmm. We
Yeah,
opened
that's
up
right. You've been
a
policing and doing some really good work. Doing the Lord's work out there. Thank you.
we opened up a at the request of some of the users.
Hand sanitizer.
Yeah, I totally do.
No,
because
that's for me.
we opened up a tell me about your character forum, so you can talk about your own characters in your home games. And Stu opened up a other Happy Jacks products kind of. Oh, that's so weird.
I'm just harassing Tim. Sorry. It's a thing I do.
I feel sullied and unusual now.
Right. He puts hand sanitizer in his hands for me.
He put hand
Lovingly embraces
sanitizer
it.
on my hand, lovingly, caressingly.
I hope it was hand sanitizer.
This is stop.
Either way, I'm satisfied.
Anyway,
Join the forums. It's an amazing place to go.
and it looks like a lot of people are using the other Happy Jacks products forum to post their own private APs that they've done of their own games at home.
Yeah, like Sergito's.
Sergito,
Yeah.
SB Lloyd, and stuff like that.
Exactly.
So yeah, a lot of stuff going on at the forums. You should go check it out. That's at happyjacks.org/forums.
Yes.
And I was going to say I wanted another, maybe another sub forum, which is write about the worst GMPC you've encountered.
Sorry, we can only make so many sub forums, and that one's not one of them. I'm totally kidding.
Denied.
Wow, you've
He
just been
hasn't had his
so.
mic on this whole time.
Well, hold on. So Tim is such a bad host that the microphone itself rebelled from being on him.
No, it wound up against.
And who knows how long that hasn't
Shit, I
been
lost
on.
the screen,
He's been
too.
talking about this the
underneath-
entire
it's back
time.
there. Right, keep looking down. Look down.
Look down, Tim. Look down.
over
Look
more.
down.
There you go.
Stop looking at my junk. What?
Watch your
Hi.
hands.
Really far down for that.
Hands, please.
Hey, you know what they say? Tiny hands.
Tiny gloves?
Yes, that's exactly what they say.
It got all
So
wrapped
now
up
you have
around
to
my
say
foot.
everything you did the last half hour all over again.
No, it was on there. It was when I leaned back to laugh. It popped off. It was wrapped around my foot.
Good, because I don't want to sit through that again.
All right.
So at the forums.
So let me just say that I apologize to those of you who are on Twitch and thank you for your your patience.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Why? What happened?
We
You'll
quite
be glad to
literally,
know-
Difficulties.
literally had technical
Oh, really?
difficulties.
You'll be glad to know that the Windows machine is now up and running.
It halfway through.
iTunes didn't find.
No, we were.
That's because we had to convert everything over frantically.
Oh, really?
That's why we went on late. We would have gone on
Yeah.
in time because
Yeah.
about half hour before it started, I rebooted this, which is one of the things you have to do
Yeah.
to make Windows machines work right.
I'm
Yeah.
convinced because the rest of the world is being hacked that Windows is now desperately sending updates out to
And
everybody.
but it was a huge update. It was
Yeah.
one of those.
Yeah.
This is almost like a new version of the operating system.
Yeah.
Oh,
so-
gotcha.
It started before we sat down at like 5 to 8. It was already running.
It had been running for like 25 minutes at that point.
Yeah, and when we started the show at like 8:40, I think it
Oh,
was.
wow.
That was- it-
Holy
It was
crap.
still going.
Stu is
It was
fuming.
close. It was close to done.
He's like, there should be a statement that says, "This is good, big one. Please."
Oh, there
don't
wasn't.
Do.
It
Yeah.
was like if you wanted to restart. Now, if I didn't restart, we would have had huge amounts of problems throughout the whole episode.
Yeah.
So it said you have to update to restart. Normally, it's a 10 or 15 minute thing. I had plenty of time. This was an
Right,
hour.
most
and
updates
10
are like, 15 minutes. You figure 15 minutes, and we're done.
They could have let me know, hey, if
No.
you really do need to restart, by the way, you're not going to get to use this computer for an hour and 15 minutes. Because we at Microsoft still consider computers to be toys.
For those of you
Still
that
sounds like Steam.
For those of you that joined us late because you had to update too, thank you. You didn't miss anything. For those of you that were being patient, we really thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is
VOD.
not
Yeah.
the level that we're ascribing to. It just happens.
Now
'Cause
I don't know what the podcast audio is going to be like. I'll listen to the very top of it to see, but I have a feeling that some stuff got bumped because there has been some movement around here. So there may be some interesting audio stuff going on on the podcast. I'll try to see if I can clean it up. I may not be able to, but I'll put a disclaimer at the front of it
Really?
if there is.
Only
We
the
may-
last
we-
half hour matters.
we may have to put an asterisk
true.
in front of this episode.
So that's it.
There were 4 asterisks in this episode. That's another word for butthole, Tim.
There were 4 asterisks in this
Yeah.
episode.
I can end the show now.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, join
Oh.
JackerCon.
You know what? I'm going to be at Gen Con, and I want to meet as
Are
many.
you?
I want to meet as many listeners as I possibly can.
Nice.
What?
No, I'm still debating about going.
Well,
I
I'm
keep
going.
getting pulled in and out of an event that we're running simultaneously, and then I potentially would have to go to Germany right afterwards, and I
Right.
think I would come home divorced.
You
if
don't
I,
want that.
If I went to Gen Con and then
You
Germany.
don't want that.
If you went to like Spain
maybe
and,
does.
and then got divorced, that might be fun. But you end up in Germany, that's your last stop? I know. Amsterdam. If you're going to get divorced, go to Amsterdam first.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Oh, I would go to
A Dutch girl?
I would go to Denmark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Right, right. Yeah.
Stockholm is one of the most beautiful
That's
cities
Sweden,
in the
but-
world.
but
I
carry
know,
on.
but yes. I was gonna say they're close.
They
They're
are.
neighbors.
Yes.
I'm going to do the thing.
Yeah.
Do the thing.
Thank you for joining us for season 19, episode 15 of Happy Jack's RPG Podcast. My name is Stu.
Stork.
Rob.
Roby Tim, at your service.
And we'll see you at September 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th at Orcon.
Yeah.
And, or Gateway. Yeah, Gateway. Orcon's the winter one.
Yeah.
And also, if you're going to be at Gen Con, I'm going to come on the forum. I'll put a little thing on there to figure out how to do meetups and stuff like that. Because I don't want to just run games for strangers, but if there's listeners who want to, be in a moat game or be in a Moment of Truth game or something like that, I will happily run stuff for them. ShadowCon it. Right, exactly. So, thank you very much.
Join JackerCon.
Join JackerCon. Happening
now.
right now.
Right now.
Goodbye.
Bye.
We'll leave you the song.
With less burning,
below the waist. Can you come up? He's in your t-shirt.
The preceding program has been a presentation of the Angry Folk Media Empire.